Hello, everybody. Welcome. Just getting everything loaded here. Something isn't quite working. There we go. All right. All right. Good morning. When are you having connection issues? Okay, I think that's working. Could someone put in the comments if you can hear and see? Hi. Oh, people have some connectivity issues. All right, I'm back. Let's see if we can fix some of this. Oh, Robert says it's better now. I'm going to try one other thing, Robert. Okay, I think we got it. Thank you, Robert. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Robert, where do you host? Where are you from? While you are telling me that, because there's a slight delay in the feed, I will tell you a little bit about today's session. So today's session is the second live session in my Quick Hits series on hosting during COVID-19. The quick hit series are 30 minutes long, and so I do a bit of a training at the beginning, and then we dive into some questions and answers. The Q&A can be about the training we've just done, or it can be generally anything about hosting. I think Robert hasn't answered, but Oxford has joined us. Hi, Oxford. My internet speed is being slowed by sticky maple syrup. Yes, I suppose that's possible. Although I don't really live where they produce maple syrup, the most of that is done in Quebec and North and New Brunswick, where I actually hail from. But here in Toronto, we don't have a lot of maple trees. All right, so let's get into it. I think you guys can hear me now. I fixed the connection speed. So if you don't know me, my name is Matt. I'm an Airbnb superhost and the creator of AirbnbUncovered.com. I've been a host now for almost 6 years, 5.5, 6 years. And in that time, I've hosted nearly 3,400 guests. I've been a super host for every single month since I started hosting over 5 years ago. And I help new hosts get some of the best guests, and I uncover some of the best hosting secrets for you, all in a bid to get you to get superhost status faster and earn more from your Airbnb. And before we dive into the training, I want to tell you about my free upcoming masterclass on the 3 hacks to earning more during the pandemic. I'll put the link to register in the comments, but it's also shown on the screen. This masterclass is a must attend because I will be going deeper in the masterclass than I ever do on my lives or in my YouTube videos. So I am really, really dishing out some of the best secrets to hosting during the pandemic so that you can start earning a profit or restart earning a profit from your Airbnb, just like I've been doing over the last 6 or 7 months. So you won't want to miss it, and I will put the link in the comments right now. There we go. So that you guys can head over there, airbnbuncovered.com/3 hacks, and sign up for one of the 2 remaining sessions. One session is on Wednesday, and then the last session is on Friday of this week. Another tech problem. Reload. Can you still hear me? Yes, I think you can. Okay, I am going to keep going and hope the tech is working. If the screen is frozen, can someone just put it in the comments and then I'll see if I can fix it. I'm not too sure what's going on today. Okay, hi Shelly. All right, so the format for today's session, I'm going to go over how to handle a confirmed or suspected case of COVID-19 in your Airbnb business. This quick training, as I mentioned, will be followed up by a live question and answer period. And everything that I'm going to talk about today is from Airbnb's own health and safety guidelines. And they outline how to deal with a confirmed or suspected case of COVID. Now, let me just link the source for you. So if you want a deep dive into what we're about to talk about today, you can go over and read that article as well as the ones that link to it. But I've done the reading, I've done the research, and I'll just give you a quick summary of it this morning. So let me give you those highlights. And basically, the biggest thing from those health and safety guidelines is that if in the past 30 days, so not 2 weeks, 30 days, if you have tested positive for COVID or you currently have COVID, you cannot interact with your guests. And the same thing is true for your guests. So you can't host a guest if they've had COVID in the last 30 days or they currently have it. Now, for the past 14 days, you cannot interact with your guests or you can't be a guest on Airbnb if you have been in close contact with somebody who had COVID or if they think that they have COVID. So that's within the last 14 days. If you suspect that you have COVID and you're awaiting a test result, again, you cannot interact with your guests. You can't be in any contact with them, even if you're wearing a mask. And you also, again, can't host a guest who has COVID or thinks they have COVID or they're waiting for a test result. So I think basically the way it works is kind of if you've gone to get a test, then you obviously suspect that you have it, in which case Airbnb is assuming that you may as well act as if you have it. There is one exception to this rule, though, and that rule is if you are hosting a frontline healthcare worker under the Frontline Stays program. And so any guest who's staying under that program, these rules don't necessarily apply, because if you think about it, if you're hosting a Frontline Stays worker, then they're probably working with COVID-19 patients. And so if we didn't have an exception for them, then they wouldn't be able to stay and we couldn't help them out. I do also want to point out that these rules apply equally to anybody who works for you. So it could be your cleaners, your check-in people, your maintenance people, everybody who is interacting inside your Airbnb or with any guests cannot interact with them if they've had COVID in the last 30 days, or if they think that they have COVID, or if they're waiting for a test for COVID, or if they've been in contact with anybody if they've had COVID in the last 14 days. Repeated violations of this policy, it's a big deal to Airbnb. They do not want Airbnbs becoming sources of spread of COVID-19. And that's probably because it would be detrimental to our business if a bunch of news stories came out all saying that Airbnbs were a source of spread. And so they could remove your listing if you are not following these rules, and they could even go as far as banning you from Airbnb. So if you can't host any of these guests who have or suspect that they could have COVID, how do you know? And Airbnb has given us a sample message that we can send to our guests, and I'll read it to you now just so I don't mess it up. But so this message says, in the interest of the health and safety of all my guests, I'm asking everyone to answer the following questions before they book. In the last 2 weeks, have you or anyone you lived with traveled to any areas that have been impacted by COVID-19? Have you been diagnosed with or suspect that you have contracted COVID-19? And do you currently have any travel restrictions in your area due to COVID-19? And so that is a message that you would send out to your guests prior to them booking. If you have instant booking on, you could put those questions in your pre-booking message, so that when a guest who's using instant booking goes to book your place, they'll see your standard questions that they must provide the answers to before booking. And then they'll also see these questions. And so they'll provide you with the answers up front. Of course, if you got an answer back to those COVID screening questions that said that they had been, you could cancel the reservation penalty free. I am going to link to the article that gives you that script. And there it is. Let's see, what else do I have for you? Another question I've been getting and I've been seeing is, what happens if you have a completely self-contained home? So perhaps you have a cottage in the woods somewhere that's completely isolated. Would it be okay to host someone who suspects that they have COVID or has COVID? And the answer to that is no. You will get no support from Airbnb. It's more or less against their policies. And to be really honest with you, I don't think you'd want to take that risk because of the lingering COVID that could be in your homes, and it could possibly infect you or your cleaners or your future guests. So I would just stay away from that completely. There are plenty of other guests out there who are looking for places to stay. You don't need to host someone who has COVID and needs a place to self-isolate or self-quarantine while they recover. Another thing that I see quite often, and I've hosted guests like this, are people who are traveling to be closer to a loved one who has COVID-19. Can you host them? And the answer there is actually yes, you can, provided that that guest does not have sustained contact with the family member who has COVID-19. So it's perfectly fine to host them as long as they are taking the precautionary measures to stay away from their family member who has COVID-19. And I think that would probably be a pretty easy thing to make sure happens, because most hospitals and long-term care homes are not allowing visitors from the outside in. So you definitely can do that. And that's pretty much what I had for you in terms of training. I want to just do a quick sum up. of those Airbnb health and safety guidelines. And in short, it's basically if in the last 30 days, if you've had COVID, or if you currently think you have COVID, or you suspect you have COVID, or if you have been in close contact within the last 14 days with somebody who has COVID, you just can't host. And so you can see how that can have an impact on your bottom line. And so you want to make sure that you're staying safe and staying healthy. Now, the exact same thing applies to your guests as well as anybody who works for you. In the case of your guest, they can cancel and get a full refund if they contract COVID or meet any of the other guidelines. Remember, you can host family members who are coming to visit other family members who have COVID-19, so long as they do not get into close contact with that family member who has COVID-19. You can't host anybody who has COVID-19 or has had it in the last 30 days either. Failing to follow the rules could see you banned, and you're delisted from Airbnb. So we definitely do not want that. I think that is it. I don't think I covered anything else. I would love to open up the comments for questions, and I'll do my absolute best to answer any of the questions that you put in the comments today. So while you are thinking of the questions, let me remind you about my free upcoming masterclass on the 3 hacks to earning more from your Airbnb during the pandemic. If you haven't been profiting from your Airbnb since the pandemic began, I think this is a must attend for you. I will be getting into more detail and going more in depth on all of the topics inside those 3 hacks that I've learned from all of my testing and trialing and error on Airbnb, as well as countless industry webinars and tons of research from the CDC, Health Canada, hotel associations, what Airbnb is saying, and I've wrapped it all up, and I'll be showing you exactly basically 3 hacks to earning more from your Airbnb during the pandemic. So I will link to that again in the comments, and I would love to see you there. All right, let's see. Do we have any comments or questions? We have a bit of a smaller audience today. Okay. What do you guys got? What questions can I answer for you this morning? I guess it's afternoon where I am. It could be morning for you. It could be evening, depending where you are. Jim, are you still here? You usually have some comments. Jim from Oxford Superhost channel on YouTube. Ooh, I think we might still have some feed issues. Oh, Jim is still with us. Jim, I wanted to tell you why I deleted the, you posted a link to your video. It wasn't because I don't want the link to your video on my page. You're happy to do so. It's just you picked my ad, my paid post. And so I absolutely, like, it's fine to do it, but just not on a paid post. So what's happening is I'm paying to have that post promoted into people's feeds to join the masterclass, and then you attached a video to it. I was like, ugh. can't do that. But feel free to repost that link onto my page, just not on a paid post, please. Oh, that's right. Jim wanted to reveal his earnings. I'll have to check out that video. And thank you again for your support, Jim. Yeah, okay. I figured you would understand. When I went to message you to tell you that's what I had done, because I deleted the post, I couldn't find you anymore. Okay, we have a question here from Teresa. She doesn't have an Airbnb yet, but she's thinking about a glamping setup. Yes, absolutely. There are a ton of glamping setups on Airbnb. They target a totally unique market, something that is prime for Airbnb, because Airbnb thrives on not just having one type of listing. They're not just like a hotel alternative. They have tree houses that people are hosting on Airbnb. There are camping trailers on Airbnb, boats, glamping, as you say. So absolutely great way to differentiate yourself from the competition in your area. And as someone who has been glamping quite a few times, it's, aside from sleeping outside, which I actually quite enjoy, all that fresh air, I sleep super well. It's a great experience, and often at a lower price point. So good for you. There's a bit of a lag, so um, just check in and see here if we've got any more questions. Oh, neat, Jim. So Jim, Oxford Superhost, does have his own YouTube channel, and he also talks about Airbnbs. A little bit different than mine, because you're less about the technical side of Airbnb. You're more about the reviews, and you give a lot of commentary, which I think is great. Um, and his most watched video, he's saying, is about reviewing an Airbnb RV. I hope it was a good review, Jim. I'm curious. Perhaps rather than you guys asking me a question, I'll ask you a question. Um, have your over the last 2 months, so let's say December and January, have your bookings gone up or down as compared to either the last year or the 2 months before that? Um, while you guys are thinking of your answer about bookings being up or down, I will answer Teresa's question. So she says it's not about COVID, but do you have any input on how to find out about zoning? That's a tough one, because every jurisdiction does zoning in their own way. Most often, zoning requests are done through your local municipality, so your city, township. And if you don't live in a formal city or township, it's often done at the county level, I believe, or in Canada we call it um, I guess it's a county too. Yeah, so same thing in the US, I think. Oxford is our stellar super host. He is up over the last 2 months, and you were telling us about that before. And so I think that's fantastic for you. If only everybody was in that position. I think that gives you, Jim, a lot of potential and upward mobility once this thing is all over. Because if you're doing this well now, what's going to happen when the pandemic is over, and we are seeing even like travel back at our normal levels? Curious if there are any other questions out there that I can answer. I know we have a bit of a smaller crowd than usual this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. Jim is giving us some insight here to what's going on in his town. His town is booming economically, and construction workers are booking my weekdays. Yeah, that's fantastic, Jim, especially if you can be in a location where you've got a construction boom and there's definitely a need for temporary housing. Construction workers are fantastic guests because they're on the road all the time. They don't necessarily want to eat out in restaurants every day, nor is that a good idea from a financial perspective. So if you can give them a quality place to be with a kitchen, a fully equipped kitchen, living room, TV, beds, then yeah, of course they would want to stay with you over a hotel. I posted quite a few. No, I mean, they're not a huge segment, but I do have one co-host listing where we do get construction workers, like maybe 3 or 4 groups every year. And I had another co-host listing where that's actually who we hosted all through the fall, was 2 construction workers. One of them was like a site superintendent. I don't remember what the other guy did. So yeah, totally great sorts of business. We've got about 3 minutes left in the live session here. If you've got a question, make sure you pop it into the comments on the right-hand side, and I will do my best to answer. Jim is telling us a little bit more about his story. Let's see what he has to say. He bought his Airbnb for $80K and it has paid for itself in 4 years. Wow. You are a smart investor, Jim. And you've also made 20,000 in equity. Time to get another one, Jim. On our last session, you told us about your hack for finding furniture because you're in a college town. Often at the end of the year, there are a number of college students who no longer need the furniture that they bought, and you are more than happy to take it off their hands, except for mattresses. And so yeah, put yourself into another one. Take advantage of that boom. All right, just about a minute left. I want to stay true to the 30-minute commitment that I gave at the front end. And so if you do have any questions, you can pop it in the comments now. Jim has one final question for us, so he'll be the last question of the day. Are real estate prices going down in Toronto? They are not, as far as I know. The latest report was that detached houses. So in Toronto, there's a huge disparity in the market. So we have a huge condo market here with probably hundreds of thousands of units, and we have obviously a huge detached home market. The detached home market, just like it has been for the last 3 or 4 years, has been going crazy. It is still going crazy during the pandemic. Condo sales have I think the last I saw is they just didn't increase that much this year. But I don't think anything is going down in Toronto. When I look out the window here, I'm on the 36th floor. I can still see tons of condos under construction. So what will the price be for all those condos? Because I know there is 100% a slump in demand in rents. So rents are falling right now, but whether or not the purchase prices are going to follow suit for condo rentals, I think that's remained that remains to be seen. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things stay the way they are. Teresa says, thank you so much. Thank you, Teresa. I hope to see you again on one of my live sessions. And depending how close you are to starting up your glamping Airbnb, you may want to attend one of my free upcoming live masterclasses, where I'll be going into the 3 hacks to earning more revenue on Airbnb during the pandemic. So this would be good for you, Teresa, if you get your glamping experience up and running while the pandemic is still raging, because I will show you how to start fantastic right off the gate and be earning profit as soon as you get there. So it's all about meeting guest needs during the pandemic, knowing which guests to attract, and how to appeal to those guests so that you can be booked. Thank you, Oxford or Jim. I will check out your video. I'm curious to see where your earnings lied in 2020. All right. Well, thank you so much to everybody for joining me live this morning. I'll be back live tomorrow, and we will be talking about, what are we talking about tomorrow? Tomorrow, we are talking about, traveling remote workers. A fantastic topic, and it's just a little snippet of what we talk about on the 3 hacks webinar. Okay, thanks everybody. See you again either tomorrow or on one of the free masterclasses. Take care.